The night hangs heavy over Memphis, the kind of southern night where even silence feels humid. Horses shuffle somewhere in the distance, a train groans across a far bridge, but the street Ida walks on is still too still. Then it hits her. A strange thin ribbon of smoke drifting upward, almost delicate, almost silent. But nothing about the smell is delicate. This isn't chimney smoke or cooking smoke. This is paper burning, cracking, turning to ash. Ida slows her pace. Her heartbeat follows the rhythm of footsteps she can't yet hear, but she feels them shadows moving where they shouldn't be. And when she turns the corner, the truth slams into her chest like a fist. Her newspaper office, her sanctuary, her battlefield, the place where every sentence she wrote cut through Liz now glows orange like a beast's open mouth. Men move around it with torches, their laughter slicing through the night. Someone throws another handful of papers into the fire, and Ida watches her own words curl and vanish in front of her eyes. Not just pages, not just ink. Her truth, her voice, her fight. They're destroying all of it. One of the men kicks a fallen beam, peering into the flames as sparks rise like angry fireflies. If she keeps writing, he growls, "Next time we don't burn the papers, we burn her." The words land heavy, but Ida doesn't flinch. She steps backward into the shadows, hiding her face as the fire reflects in her eyes. She isn't terrified, she's memorizing. Every voice, every gesture, every threat. If they want her silent, it means her truth hurts them. And that is the exact reason she cannot stop. As she walks home, the street lamps flicker like dying candles. Memphis feels different, tonight hostile, watchful. But Ida's mind is somewhere else entirely. 3 names pound against her chest: Thomas Moss, Calvin McDowell, Will Stewart, her friends good men, owners of the People's Grocery store that dared to outsell a white business. Their success was their death sentence. Ida remembers Thomas's baby girl reaching for him the day before he died, remembers Will's quiet smile, remembers Calvin's big hand shaking as he begged them not to take him. Those memories burn hotter than the fire still glowing behind her. Inside her boarding room, 2 survivors sit trembling, clothes torn, faces gray with shock. One of them whispers, "Miss Wells, they beat us until we pretended to be dead." The other stares at nothing. His voice cracks. "They said a black man shouldn't have a store better than theirs." Ida sinks onto a chair. She feels her heart cracking, grief, anger, helplessness. Sit inside that pain, something sharp forms. Something solid. A question rises in her mind, cold and dangerous. If the world refuses to hear these men, then who will speak for them? Her desk is small, the lamp dim, the room quiet, but inside her chest, a storm is roaring. She opens her notebook. For a moment, her hand trembles not from fear, but from rage so fierce it shakes her bones. Then she grips her pen like a weapon. The first stroke of ink feels like the first swing of a sword. She writes until the lamp runs low, until her fingers cramp, until her eyes ache. She documents names, dates, witness statements, patterns how lynching isn't punishment. It's economic warfare. Every sentence is dangerous. Every paragraph is a target on her back. But she keeps going because the truth is heavier than her fear. By morning, the pages are covered, stacked like ammunition. She reads them once more, tears slipping down unnoticed, not sadness, but fury. Publishing this could get her killed, but not publishing it. That would kill her soul. She steps outside, holding the pages like a shield. The sun resizes over Memphis, but it feels wrong. Soft light falling on a city built on silence. Ida walks straight into that light, carrying the truth like fire. 3 days after the article prints, Memphis erupts. White newspapers scream lies about her. Preachers call her a danger. Men whisper her name like a curse. But the truth hits them harder than they expected. Crowds gather, mobs form. A group storms the printing office, smashing windows. Another forms outside her boarding house. Her editor finds her with panic in his eyes. "They're coming tonight, Ida. They're coming to kill you." She doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. She simply closes her notebook and says, "Then I leave before they arrive." At the station, the whistle shrieks like a warning. She boards with nothing but a small bag, her notes, and the clothes she wears. As the train pulls away, the city shrinks. But she doesn't look back at the place trying to bury her. She only thinks of what she has left behind. Her job, her safety, her home, her friends' graves, everything. But as the wheels clatter against the rails, she feels something surprising rising inside her resolve. She may be running from Memphis, but she is running toward war. Night falls again. Her reflection stares back from the window, tired eyes, clenched jaw. A woman crossing state lines with nothing but truth in her hands. She leans forward and whispers to herself, "If they think fear will silence me, they've never met me." Outside, the world is dark. Inside her chest, a fire burns brighter than the one that destroyed her office. This isn't escape. This is the beginning. The beginning of a war she refuses to lose. As the train carries Ida farther from Memphis, the conductor announces stations she barely hears. Her mind refuses to detach from the city she left behind, the place where her friends died, where her words were set on fire, where mobs promised to erase her existence. But as miles stretch between them, she realizes something chilling. Memphis doesn't just want her gone. It wants her forgotten. Her story, her voice, her truth wiped clean, like chalk washed from a slate. Ida closes her eyes and lets the rumble of the train merge with the roar in her chest. If they want her forgotten, she will make herself unforgettable. She reaches New York with no money, no home, and no plan, just pain sharpened into purpose. By morning, she's sitting in an office of the New York Age, a Black-owned newspaper. The editor, T. Thomas Fortune, spreads out the crumpled Memphis articles on his desk. He whistles low. "Miss Wells, publishing this in the South could have gotten you killed." She meets his stare without blinking. It already almost did. He studies her, recognizing the fire behind her calm. "You want to keep writing about lynching?" Ida nods. "I want to expose all of it. Every lie, every murder, every town that thinks no one's watching." Fortune leans back. "Then you're in the right city." For weeks, Ida buries herself under piles of old newspapers, court documents, and handwritten letters from families who lost sons, brothers, fathers. The room feels like a tomb, each article a gravestone, each clipping a ghost, calling out for justice. She notices the patterns immediately. Black men accused of crimes without evidence. White mobs acting as judge and executioner. Newspaper headlines twisting lies into law. Over and over, the same story, the same horror, the same silence. Every file she reads adds another weight to her chest. Not a weight of despair, but a weight of responsibility. One night, long after the staff have gone home, she uncovers a case that freezes her blood. A man lynched because he refused to give up land a white developer wanted. Another killed because he wouldn't step off a sidewalk. Another for looking at a white woman. Ida flips through the details, her hands shaking with fury. She whispers into the quiet newsroom, "They're murdering us to keep us small, to keep us silent, to keep us afraid." And then her voice grows stronger. "But if I show the world their lies, maybe the world will finally see the truth." A week later, she's invited to speak at a large New York gathering. She stands before a crowd of activists, politicians, and journalists. Her voice quivers for only a second, then steadies like steel being shaped in fire. She describes the lynching of her friends, the threats, the burning office. She reveals the cases she studied, the patterns she discovered. A quiet gasp spreads across the room. Ida finishes with, "If America will not protect our lives, then it must be forced to confront the truth of how it destroys them." The applause is thunderous, but Ida doesn't smile. She knows applause is not justice. Her war is just beginning. She compiles her investigations into a pamphlet titled Southern Horrors. It is not gentle, not polite, not softened. It names names, dates, locations, lies. It exposes the grotesque truth behind the myth of Black criminality. And when the pamphlet hits the streets, it explodes. Southern politicians call her a liar. Newspapers call her dangerous. Preachers call her evil. But others, Black communities, Northern allies, abolitionist groups rally to her side. Letters flood her doorstep, donations, invitations, stories. For the first time, Ida realizes she isn't alone. One evening, as she walks through Harlem, a small group of young activists approach her. "Miss Wells, we want to help." Their faces are determined, their voices trembling with the weight of what they're asking for. Ida studies them, students, workers, dreamers, none older than 25. She thinks of the danger, the mobs, the threats, the violence. Then she thinks of her friends hanging from that Memphis tree. She nods. "All right, but if you fight beside me, you must understand this isn't a protest. It's a revolution." And they nod back. "Ready?" The group hosts a clandestine gathering in a dim church basement. Candles flicker against cracked walls. Ida stands before the crowd. Dozens of Black men and women who have lost fathers, brothers, husbands, sons. Some cry as she reads their stories aloud. Some shake with rage. Some sit stone still, emotions carved too deep for tears. Ida raises her voice. "Your pain is not invisible. Your stories are not forgotten. Your loved ones deserve their names written in the truth of history, not buried in lies." For the first time, she sees hope flicker in their eyes. News of Ida's gathering spreads like wildfire. Southern newspapers call her a menace. Governors call her a liar. One editor writes, "Ida B. Wells should be dragged back to Memphis and whipped for daring to speak." Another demands her arrest. Her friends beg her to hire guards. Ida refuses. "Let them threaten me," she says. "It only proves the truth I'm telling." But inside, she knows the danger is real. Every step she takes now is a step on hostile ground. Late one night, Ida sits alone in her small apartment. Stacks of letters surround her, pleas for help, stories of lynchings, cries for justice. She feels the weight of an entire nation pressing on her shoulders. For a moment, she breaks. Her breath trembles. Her hands shake. She whispers, "How much more can I carry?" Then she sees the photograph of her friends, Thomas, Calvin, Will. Their faces remind her of why she started. She wipes her tears, straightens her back, and makes a decision that will change everything. She will take her fight beyond America. If her own country tries to silence her, she'll make the world listen. A cold Atlantic wind gnaws at her coat as Ida stands on the deck of a steamship, watching the silhouette of New York shrink into fog. The ocean is wide and merciless, a living wall between the place that tried to burn her and the strange cities that might listen. She clutches a battered satchel full of pamphlets, Southern Horizon letters from bereaved families. Below, sailors chatter in languages she doesn't know. Above, gulls scratch the sky. For the first time, she is small against the world, but not undone. The miles feel like a promise. If America won't reckon with its crimes, perhaps Europe will. If not for justice, then at least for witness. Paris receives her with a thin curiosity. She speaks before crowded halls where aristocrats sip tea and students lean forward with a mix of pity and intrigue. Her English sounds raw to their ears. Her words contain facts, names, dates sound like a challenge to a polite society built on empire and hypocrisy. Some listeners applaud with genuine shock. Others avert their faces, uncomfortable at being forced to look at America's rot. After a lecture, a journalist asks whether her pamphlet divides instead of heals. Ida stares at him, the tiredness in her bones replaced by a sharper edge. "It is not my job to soothe the guilty," she says. "It is my job to name them." One evening, in a smoky salon lit by gaslight, Ida meets abolitionists and European journalists who trade whispered astonishment over her files. A French woman, hair pulled back, veil of melancholy in her eyes, places a hand on Ida's sleeve and says softly, "We will write. We will not let you be unknown." For the first time in months, Ida feels the quick lift of relief. Allies take her pamphlets, translate her words, and send them into presses across the channel. Her fight begins to look less like a solitary torch and more like the first match lighting others. Not all attention is kind. A conservative newspaper prints a caricature of her, twisting her face into monstrous shapes. A diplomat warns her that criticizing an ally America on foreign soil might complicate things for Black migrants. Her letters from home arrive more urgent, mobs stirring anew, threats whispered that her absence had emboldened. Ida reads them under a lamp, the ink smearing like fresh blood. She realizes that the world's eyes can both protect and inflame. The farther she travels, the more her name grows. The more her name grows, the more targets appear on others who dared to speak with her. Her heart tightens with a familiar recovery. Victory seems to be purchased in someone else's suffering. In London, she secures an audience with a member of parliament who is quietly sympathetic. He listens to her voice, measured, urgent hand, promises to raise questions in the house. For a moment, she tastes something near vindication. The machinery of another country's governance turning, however slightly, toward her truth. But the meeting ends with a quiet warning. Politics is patient, and politics can be bribed or silenced. As Ida leaves Parliament, rain washes the streets, but not the stain of injustice. She folds her pamphlets closer. The promise of attention elsewhere had been intoxicating. The bluntness of political compromise is a cold reminder of how slow systems move compared to a life stolen by a mob. Back in a small rented room, she reads a thread of letters. Mothers who lost sons, children who lost fathers, wives who lost husbands. Many are desperate. Can you help us? Will you come? Some ask for money to bury their dead. Others offer nothing but gratitude. Ida writes back to each with care, sometimes sending a few coins from donations. The letters are a map of grief, and each one presses into her the responsibility she has become. She begins to understand that her pamphlet is not merely an expose, it is a lifeline. The fragile rope connecting scattered people to a larger witness, but every rope frays under weight, and she fears what will happen when hers breaks. Back in America for a short campaign stop, she learns of a town that claims her pamphlet incited unrest. A local sheriff muses about bringing charges, not against the lynchers, but against the woman who named them. The absurdity drips like acid. A system that prosecutes truth-tellers, while men who drag others to their deaths walk free. Ida sits in a courthouse hallway, listening to the hum of other trios' petty theft. Drunken brawls where justice seems practiced like theater. Her resolve hardens. She begins collecting legal names, petitions, signatures. If law will not deliver, she will make a public record so bulky and undeniable that silence becomes impossible. Through organizing and lectures, a generation of young activists gathers. They are fierce, impassioned, and brilliant in their anger. They study her pamphlets like scripture and copy her methods, petitioning, public speaking, documenting. One student, barely legal age, stands beneath a streetlight and vows to walk into danger if Ida asks him. She sees in them the continuation of a fight she cannot finish alone. When one young man is beaten for handing out flyers, the group floods the press with his story, and the mayor can no longer pretend everything is quiet. The taste of small victories gives Ida steadiness. She is no longer merely a reporter. She is the nucleus of a movement. A coalition of sympathetic editors publishes a searing editorial showing lynchings as economic terror. The backlash is immediate. Advertisers withdraw. Conservative presses scream censorship. And one paper that covered the story is threatened with mob action. Editors sleep in their offices now. Typesetters whisper about what it means to be a free press, when free men can be lynched for profit. Ida sits among them, rubbing, shaking hands, feeling both pride and dread. She has pushed the needle, but she knows raw courage calls down a price. People will lose jobs. Families will lose income, and the fragile web holding their campaign will be tested. Years press forward like pages turning. Ida stands before a small congregation in a modest hall. Older now, hair threaded with silver, voice a little hoarser, but steadier than ever. She reads a list of names, those lynched, those forgotten, those whose stories were buried under town lies. Each name lands like a stone in a river, making ripples. Children listen at the back, eyes wide, not merely understanding history, but feeling it in their ribs. A woman in the front row clutches the hand of her son, whispering thanks. Ida looks at those faces and understands the truth of what she has built, not the impossible hope that the world will instantly change, but the quieter, fiercer thing, a network of memory. She has turned private grief into public record. She has made it harder to forget. As the hall empties, Ida steps into the night. The same stars she watched from a ship years ago hang above her. She whispers, not as a vow this time, but as an accountant. They tried to erase us. They failed. The words float into the cold air and land like seed on soil. Somewhere, quietly and without ceremony, the long work of remembrance continues. If you're ready for more real talk about getting video, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell.